We're back. This is Josh Jelinski taking your phone calls at 800-321-0710. This is the Financial Quarterback taking your calls at 800-321-0710. And we have questions on stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds. Do people really want to know about Bitcoin? Our listeners. I can give a Bitcoin tutorial, but I want to know if our listeners even care. Or are we... give us a call, 800-321-0710, if you want a little Bitcoin tutorial. But let's go to what I think is the biggest news you didn't hear of this week in the world of finance. Ed Slott uncovered this on the Secure Act. The Secure Act, we all thought it was going... So basically, the IRS is now coming for your IRAs. Well, if you didn't know that, I mean, it's kind of a clever way to say it. But when you do a 401k or IRA, you're choosing to not pay taxes today in order to pay taxes tomorrow at probably higher rates. So an IRA is a great place for somebody to start if they've never done saving. A Roth IRA grows tax-free. You can pull it out tax-free because you put it in with already taxed dollars. So it's not like a gimme for the rich. You're paying the taxes now. And so that the government doesn't have to take care of you when you're older, they're incentivizing saving for retirement. So it's a great plan, other than, to me, going to a flat tax system would solve all this, but that'll never happen. So the Secure Act is a major piece of legislation, and the IRS apparently surprises many with an apparent explanation of the Secure Act rule. So what happens is, if you have an IRA, when you die, your heirs, so let's say Ernesto passes, leaves his IRA to his nephew or niece or somebody great, they used to be able to take distributions out over their life expectancy. So almost like an annuity for their life. So it was a nice middle class trust. But President Trump changed all that when he signed the Secure Act into law. And basically it said after 10 years, all the money has to be taxed. It has to be paid out, which I guess theoretically I'm fine with. It's not a tax hike, but it is a way to stop one of the biggest gifts to middle class wealth distribution in the last 100 years. So if you had money in an IRA, your heirs could literally have that for as long as they live. The Stretch IRA was an amazing tax savings vehicle for the middle class. But just a few weeks after the start of baseball season, the IRS has thrown us a curveball by apparently interpreting the Secure Act's 10-year payout rule in a majorly unexpected way. We say apparently because the IRS's explanation isn't very clear. Surprise, surprise. And even if it was clear, the IRS offered the information in an informal publication that should not be relied on, but it does leave us a clue. The 10-year rule was thought, so let's say you have $100,000 in an IRA and you die. Your heirs, let's say your son Johnny and your daughter Jane, have 10 years to spend all the money and pay all the taxes due on the $100,000. The old interpretation thought that they could wait till the 10th year to spend it. They could take a little bit out every year for 10 years, or they could wait till the 10th year, spend it all, pay the tax in the 10th year to take advantage of 10 years of tax-deferred compounding. Not so, says the IRS in their latest publication. Now realize this isn't final yet, but it gives us a clue to what they are thinking. The IRS thinks they're a partner in your IRA. Theoretically, that was always a part of the deal. People, I don't know what you were paying attention to, but the IRA was always, there's a tax lien on your IRA or your 401k. Now, does that mean you shouldn't do it? There are some idiots on social media who say, oh, don't do a 401k ever. Don't do an IRA ever. Now, if that's the only thing you're doing, I would agree. Meaning you should have a varied plan. You should have an emergency fund before you have an IRA. Do you have 6 months of cash savings in the bank so that if you lost your job and had no means, you could be okay for 6 months to get back on your feet? If you do not have that, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Have an emergency fund. Do you have term insurance equal to 20 times your pay that's convertible to a good permanent policy? Term insurance is more important. Remember in math, there was the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Do you remember that? Remember that, Ernesto? Or were you asleep in high school? Do you remember
I was
that?
sleeping in high school, but that sounds so familiar.
We have another member of the guest, Bob. Our brother Ted. Are you brother Ted? Whatever. So Bob is famous. He's in the studio, or infamous, depending on who you are. So Bob, do you remember PEMDAS? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or no? Am I the only one?
I remember
must have
neither
been a geek.
of those. I've got to tell you, my education was clearly deficient.
I must have been. Were you public schooled, parochial schooled, homeschooled?
Public school in Texas, though. So
in Texas.
There may be regional differences.
So I was public school in New Jersey. So maybe that's one benefit of the New Jersey public education system. My wife's a public educator, so we love teachers. So the point that so PEMDAS is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That there's an order of operations when it comes to math, parentheses, exponents, you get the whole thing, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. PEMDAS. So now everybody's shaking their head. They sort of remember that. So PEMDAS, there's a PEMDAS when it comes to finance. Term insurance, car insurance, home insurance, life insurance, getting a will, emergency fund, then you start saving for retirement. So it's not that it's unimportant. It's that there's a prioritization before you get to it. Now, if you have an employer who's matching your contributions, you should take advantage of the max match or you're dumb, basically. I mean, if your employer's giving you 3% and you're not taking it, well, there's a problem. If your employer is giving you a match on 6%, there's a problem. Now, there are these rising TikTok celebrities and YouTube financial people who are telling you, don't do a 401k, don't do an IRA. Well, generally, they're dumb, and they're just trying to sell you something else. However, there's a risk to it that the government has a tax lien. So it's not that I'm against 401ks or IRAs. I want to be very clear. I think it's a great way. More middle-class millionaires have been created by the 401k or IRA than I think in any other way. Why? It's kind of set it and forget it money. And usually, if you don't set it and forget it, money burns a hole and you spend it on all kinds of stupid stuff. Cars, your kids, your wife, your husband, thankfully, one of the best things I did was marry a frugal woman. My wife is very frugal, so that's a tip. When you're seeking a spouse, be very cheap when you're dating. Now, pay for them when you go out. I heard there's this thing of like people not paying for the person of the opposite sex. I don't know. I think that's a little cheap. But what I mean is some frugality. Do they want the latest gizmo or tech gadget? Do they want the latest Coach handbag or the latest shoe? And it's not just, men can be spendthrifts too. And men and women both alike spend money on stupid stuff. What do you spend money? That's a good question. I want to throw it open to the phone lines, 800-321-0710. What is something stupid that you've spent money on in the last 30 days, Ernesto?
I'm going to say Uber Eats.
Uber Eats. There you go. That's a lot of these apps are an epic transfer of wealth from those of us who are dumb, lazy, or fat. And what I mean by that is because of COVID, I'm actually to blame for that too. I'm doing DoorDash. When you buy these online things, it's like $20. You tip. You see this nice person, you feel sorry, they're in a mask, they're coming to your door, they look like they haven't been making a few dollars, and you're like, I'm doing a little better than they are. Here's $5. Even though you want to stiff them because the app charges you $3, the store now charges you $2. So that's a great financial tip. Learn how to cook for yourself. But I don't know. I'm not very good at cooking for myself. So I have the same struggle. So I like ordering like DoorDash or Uber Eats. And there was a tip I heard on Uber Eats, by the way. If you get one of these credit cards, they'll pay up to $120 or $240 of Uber Eats. One of the Amex cards or something like that. So that's kind of a gimme that I heard. So Uber Eats, DoorDash, very, very good. Amazon delivery from Whole Foods. Have you done that?
I live on Whole Foods delivery. Absolutely. Yep.
That's so expensive.
You schedule it. It's totally
it's so
worth it.
convenient, but it's so expensive.
If you think about what it costs for gas, though, it's definitely a savings.
I don't know. I don't think so, Ernesto. But no, exactly. In the pandemic, I'm not even in the pandemic. I work. We have 6 kids. It's very hard to not do the Amazon delivery. It is really convenient. So maybe you can spend more time with clients and make more money out of your time that way. I like that. That is actually something that I don't buy many stupid things, but I would say that is something. So here's the thing, tip. If you go, I don't have $300 a month to save in a Roth IRA, drive to ShopRite, clip coupons, take that $300 a month you're spending on. I looked and analyzed the Amazon purchases, and it's like $5 for a bag of Cheetos. It's inflation is here. And by the way, new economic data came out that inflation is here. Prices grew by over 2.6%. We have a very real problem. Inflation is already here. So give us a call, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. If you want the free Income for Life Blueprint. You get a 3-for-1 special when you call us today. Let's say you're driving in the car and you wonder, do I have enough to retire? Can I retire in a year? Let us help you retire quicker. No guarantees here, but we do have people. I met with somebody yesterday. We realized, okay, we put together a plan where we saw how much the husband made from Social Security, how much the wife made, and what was a reliable expectation of income from their assets, and we found that they could retire this August. So they didn't realize that, and they're almost pinching themselves. Can I really do it? Yes, you can. Now, some of it depends on how much you spend in retirement. So if you have a higher standard of living, sometimes you have to delay retirement. But why don't you find out? Call us now, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH. Tammy says, is this live? Yes, it is live. Brother Ted talks about post-COVID economics. We'll talk about that. And John C. said, forget dating during COVID. It's not happening. Well, I would say, John, get a life. Take somebody on a date. Because you better share germs with somebody. If you don't share germs with somebody, pick one person. I feel bad for you, John. So I think even Dr. Anthony Fauci said you could date somebody during COVID as long as you wear a mask or something. So give us a call, 888-988-JOSH. We'll be back after these messages, 888-988-JOSH, and we'll be answering questions from the YouTube chat line, as well as those of you who call us on our listener call-in line, 800-321-0710. We'll be back after these messages.
The preceding program was sponsored by the Jelensky Advisory Group.
Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications, including 5-Star Wealth Manager, Advisory of the Year finalist by Senior Market Advisor, and top of the $1 Million Roundtable, are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Josh Jelensky or Wealth Quarterback LLC. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Wealth Quarterback website at www.jelensky.org. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions, the information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, Josh Jelensky and Wealth Quarterback do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature, is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Advisory services offered through Wealth Quarterback LLC.